my parents called me a doctor since I was born.
Yo.
Until I was deep in high school and realized this chemistry is not there's no chemistry between me and the chemistry and the biology and the physics. It's a no.
You can be very good at something, but it's not where it falls.
Like, rather than focusing on whether kids have tucked in their shirts or whether they're walking with their hands behind their back, focus on what's in here, what's their mind.
I'd be with my friends and we'd be somewhere in town and we're walking.
Yeah.
And the minute we bypass someone that looks similar to me, they look at me to see if I know
Yeah.
the
Or if
person.
you know the person.
And I would wonder, why are they looking at me? So hello, my name is Beldina Kasema. On Instagram, you'll find me as still Beldina Kasema. And today we are at the Ages and Stages podcast KE, and that's how you can find us on Instagram as well. And in here, I have my co-host.
Hi everyone, my name is Dee. I'm Things Dee Says on the socials. And yeah, welcome to the Ages and Stages podcast.
And it's the things D says. Where?
Yeah, the things.
A little crazy, but very nice.
Yeah.
Yes. And today, Dee, what are we talking about today?
So, first of all, this is your podcast that discusses the intersection between the journey for formal education and what we've learned through the school of life,
And
right?
how they intersect. I
Yeah.
like the way you use that word.
Yeah.
Intersect.
Yeah, the hapo kwa intersection to hapo. You know, when you're deciding to turn left, turn right, go straight, go what? There. So, we discussed the different ages, the different stages we've gone through. And today we're discussing a very, very pivotal age and stage for everybody, which is
1 and 8. I mean 18. And by 18, we mean 18, 19, 20.
Apo, that age
Apo
range.
too.
When you're about to exit your teens and you're most likely in high school, you're most likely, trying to figure out what you're going to do career-wise, talent-wise. You've started to discover the things you like, things like that. So today we're going to talk about what was going on with us at that age and that stage. So what was going on with you, Beldina, at 18?
At 18, most of the time, I feel like that's the first point where you realize what it means to transition. Of course, there's a puberty, 13, and there's ages, but usually you have, I feel like you have a lot of assistance from parents and everyone because you don't quite know it. But at 18, you recognize, you know what you want, you begin to see the things that you might like, the things that you might not like.
Yeah.
It's the first point of transition, it's the first transition
Yeah.
that goes through. And me, at 18, I'd already just finished my A-levels. I was going into my first degree.
You were already in the UK, weren't you?
Yes, I was already in the UK.
Wow, 2 years deep.
And I'm telling you, I had learned a lot. It's the first time my parents were open to me living alone. Thank you, Jesus. It's the first time I was realizing a lot of things around me. I was realizing the things I like to do. I just started to adjust to the environment that I was in. And some things began to make sense to me, at least. At this point is when I was also deciding what to study. And I'm telling you.
What am I going to study? Oh my gosh, that dilemma, I know it very well.
Yo.
I know it very, very well.
And there's so many voices.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks you should study. There are people who think if you're good at this, you should be studying this. I'm like,
Oh, listen, my parents called me a doctor since I was born.
Yo.
Until I was deep in high school and realized this chemistry is not there's no chemistry between me and the chemistry and the biology and the physics. It's a no. So 18, I was in high school. I was actually in IB1 going to IB2, or was I already in IB2? I was in high school.
were you just transitioning? Now you're just finishing your IB and you're really just looking at uni. So
Yeah, now we're
what
looking at uni.
What options were on the table at that
So
point?
at that point, I remember what was most popular was America and the UK. And a bunch of my friends were going to the UK. So in fact, that was one of my very top choices. And then Australia became a close second and very quickly overtook every other country. So I ended up going to Australia. I ended up choosing Australia for, various reasons. Like, one, the uni that I went to, the University of Adelaide, offered a double degree in law and media. Now, at that time, I wanted to be a media personality. That was my dream. That was my goal. And so my parents were just like, listen, you're doing a profession, so
we're not paying for media.
yeah. So now, no, they're like, you're not going abroad to do media. Media is who is what. So I found the University of Adelaide offered a double degree in law and media. So Bachelor of Law, Bachelor of Media, you do them concurrently for like, was it 7 years? Is it 5.5 years, 6 years? Yeah. So you do them concurrently, you do your Bachelor of Law, Bachelor. I was like, this is perfect for me because it combines a profession, which is the thing, the
parents wanted.
I need to tick for my parents to be like, okay, you can go abroad. And then the media, which I thought in my head at the time, I'd be like I'd be Caroline Mutoko Part 2 when I finish.
Think that it takes a lot of maturity to at least know the one thing that you want to study at that point.
Yeah.
Because I think it took a lot for you to know that you really wanted to do media. I didn't know what I wanted to do
at all.
And I think it's a feeling that you get. There's always the kids that know what they're good at and tend to lean towards it. Myself, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went with what I was good at.
What were you good at?
I was good at the sciences. I did my 3 sciences in math for A levels. It was something else.
You would have been my deskie. I would have been like, sit next to me, tell me whether I choose B or D.
Like, let's do this. But I was good at, so you go with something that is within the STEM because this is what you're good at. But you've never really thought of what you're good at and what you're passionate at as well.
Yeah.
And being able to balance it. So I think it took a lot of maturity to even
think it was, honestly, I don't think it was maturity because when I look back, there was no maturity involved. I was really good at languages, number one, like effortlessly good at languages. Still am.
Parlez-vous français? Oui.
Small.
Very nice.
But I'm actually very good with languages. Like I can pick up a language quite quickly.
Kidding me?
I'm not. And then I was also very good at the creative. Like I did dance as a subject. I had music. Like I was very good at creative stuff as well as languages. So I knew that was where the direction I wanted to go. But my whole like teenage life, I looked up to Caroline Mutoko like crazy. So
shout out to Caroline if you're listening to us, man. Shout out to Oprah if you're ever listening to our podcast.
Right.
We welcome you, Ages and Stages Podcast KE on Instagram.
So that made me that always gave me the drive that I can do this. I can actually do this. I want to do this. So for the longest time, I was focused on I want to be a media personality, so I'm gonna go and study media, blah blah blah. And when I come back, I'll be on TV tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? Like that's a naive mind. That's not really a mature mind. So that's the point where I was at. So it was that situation where my parents are kind of trying to guide me based on their own knowledge and their own preferences, and I'm trying to like resist and stand my ground, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be a presenter. And I used to write as well. I'm a writer as well, so I used to write articles like
I've
for
come
Young
across
Nation.
your blogs though, love.
Like
I've
for
come
Young
across your
Nation,
blog.
things like that. Like I just used to write a lot. So because I knew that about myself, I knew, okay, these are my talents, this is what I'm good at, I'd be a very good media personality. Of course, life didn't turn out like that. This is why we're here talking about the different ages and stages.
Perhaps you're still in media, you're in front of a camera, still doing it.
True, yeah.
You're achieving it,
exactly.
it. You always knew.
And that's why I was so excited to get back to podcasting, because I was just like, I love creative outlets. I love having meaningful discussions about the things we go through in life. You know what I mean? And that's what we decided to do. We decided to be, basically your big sister, to talk you through the ages and stages that we've gone through, the ages and stages that you're going through, and even what's to come. Like, we're still learning. Our mission here is to heal, to teach, to learn as we go, and probably even unlearn. But yeah, that's
there's a lot of unlearning. But then I think
so. Now you're in the UK. You're trying to figure out what your talents are, what your interests are, and then what's the first thing that piqued? Like, what did you study? What piqued your,
I was doing
interest?
I was doing a lot of the STEM programs. I always knew I wanted to become an astronaut when I was younger.
Ooh.
And in my head I was like, we've got to find a way how we're going to do it. But then I ended up in the UK, and when I was ending up in the UK, I did my A levels in the sciences and then went into engineering for a bit there. But I always knew, even when I was in the classes, something didn't feel right. and something didn't feel right, you can be very good at something, but it's not where it falls. I'd find
So
myself.
which classes?
And you'd find within engineering, start off with general, so you do a lot of STEM, a lot of machinery, a lot of electrical. You're trying to figure out which kind you might really like. But then later on, what happens is I realized that I love to speak to people.
Yeah.
So I'd find myself in a class where people are like really quiet and not looking to really associate.
Yeah.
I know everyone's problems.
Yeah.
I want to sort them. I want to work on them. I want to
Yeah.
be with them. I was like, hey,
So whereas you would think an engineer is like, supposed to be very reclusive and whatever, you're just there, you're like
personality by myself. But then I think I was just beginning to come into myself. And I think ideally what I'm saying is that it's okay that you might have ended up in a place where like you're in uni or you're studying your course and you really didn't know what you're good at, and then you begin to see different parts of your personality and you begin to recognize them. And I remember when I decided I was coming back to Kenya, and my mom wasn't too happy about it. She was like,
At what age did you?
I think
you decided to come back.
I
One
decided
told you to come back.
I decided I graduated because I had to graduate.
Yeah.
But that was it. I
That's
was
usually
done.
the hardest one to
I was
explain
like,
to
I am
parents.
coming home.
Yeah.
So ideally, my mother wasn't very happy about it because it's a whole degree they've paid for.
Yeah.
And I've just finished, but then I'm not looking like I want to practice what I studied. And I come back and my mom says, you know what you need to do? If you're not going to go back to school, if you're not going to work, what you're going to do is you're going to do a second degree. That's how I end up in a class. And she legit walks into a uni and picks general courses for me. And she decides that whatever course that I tend to choose, I will end up doing it completely. Like I'll have to walk into a class and decide.
You have to see it to the end.
Yes. And let me tell you, I remember the exact day and time I walked into a psychology class. I remember that day very clearly.
Yeah.
They were talking about experimental psychology, and they're talking about this girl who was really a hermaphrodite. So she was 90% inside male, if I can say it, and 10% female. But on the outside, through her whole life, everything had been presented as female at 90% and 10% male.
What do you mean 10% male? Like one testicle? Or?
I do not know. But I remember this being explained to me really well. But then, like, I think she was looking very female. She'd grown up completely female. But they were starting to see some aspects that were coming up that had like the 10%.
As
and
if
then
you came across a real life case like that.
And you can imagine, first of all, she was coming all the way from Somalia at that point when they were moving in. And she was at one of, I believe she was at Kakuma or something. But I remember that class clearly. Because the way our psychology teacher, that's someone she was working with, that she was very keen to be associated with and to figure out.
Yeah.
But which part do you remove? Do you keep the 90 and the 10? At what point do you decide what is good for who?
Goodness gracious.
It was experimental because
Did you follow it through, like, till the end? What ended up happening?
We weren't allowed because the girl at that point became very shy about the whole situation when she realized how serious it could have been and everything. So she opted to not be part of the class and part of our investigation and everything. But I remember that day clearly, let me tell you, Dee, because suddenly something made sense. Suddenly something clicked. Suddenly everything. I remember the shivers. Even if you look at me right now, like the hairs are up. I remember exactly what I felt. Like it was a feeling where I felt like I belonged. I love those classes. I would never miss class because I wanted to debate about everything and anything. There was room to ask questions and everything. And I think that's what uni should do for you. Like, allow you to explore.
Yeah, the curiosity, I guess, your individual curiosity.
And be able to figure out exactly what you want to be able to do as you explore. So the different options that are out there. What do you like? What don't you like? What works for you? What subjects do you want to explore? That's what uni is about.
That's the thing. Like, that's what I wish our education system here in Kenya focused on. Like, rather than focusing on whether kids have tucked in their shirts or whether they're walking with their hands behind their back, focus on what's in here, what's their mind. Because what's the point of churning out 10 Beldinas?
I agree.
What's the point? Because there's only one of you.
Sure.
So therefore, that means the way that your mind thinks, the way that you problem solve is unique to you. But when we go to a school system that is focused on making us the same, making us behave the same, making us react the same. Now, in my current stage and age of life, I look back at that and I'm like, that's a disservice. That's a disservice. And now, even being a mom, I want my son to be able to retain his personality. He has a fantastic personality, and I don't want a situation where he goes into the school system and he's told to conform and be like everybody else.
Man, shout out to Shadow Mado. If you ever watch this when you're grown, we love you and we love your personality. Keep it, please. But yes, and it's different aspects as well. This is the first time in my head I was ideally looking at relationships for the first time, and not only relationships in terms of like boyfriend and girlfriend kind of relationship. I mean relationships even with friends. This is the first time I met my best friend when I was in uni during the second year.
That's so interesting. You were looking at relationships as a whole at
that age. This is when I was discovering it. I was discovering, I like this personality, but this doesn't work for me. And having the freedom and perhaps the permission, giving yourself the permission to be able to decide, okay, I like this person. We don't relate. The energy with this other person doesn't work really well for me.
Right.
That's when I was starting to figure it out. I was like,
that blows my mind. Do you know why? That was the farthest thing from my mind. The farthest thing from my mind, because I was so naive about friendships. I was like, of course, the way friendships work in high school is how they're going to work in uni. The way dynamics work in Kenya is how they're going to work in Australia. Like, I was just like, I'm the type of person who I'm like, I'm going to be friends with everybody. Like, that's my preference. That's what I like.
Make friends with that tree.
Yes.
And that book over there.
Yeah, and that glass. And so, I had that mentality that or rather, I didn't think about it. Let's just put it that way. I didn't think about it beyond my circumstances. Of course, at that time, what the only relationship you're examining is with boys. So I didn't really think about either my relationship with family, my relationship with friends. That was never in my thought. What was in my thought was boys, my relationship with the opposite sex, gender. And just a naivety of expecting that whatever friendships, relationships, however they had modeled themselves at that point in my life would be the case forever, and which I have gone through one disappointment after another after another.
At that point, in terms like when you went to uni, can you say there was a difference between the friendships that you formed and the people?
How much time you got?
Tell me about it.
How much time you got? So in uni, I thought, just like high school, if we sit next to each other at a lecture, at a tute, we're best friends.
Automatically.
What do you mean tomorrow you're gonna walk past me like you've never seen me? That was, I think, the major culture difference for me in terms of going to Australia. Australia, people mind their own business,
completely
mind their own business. Here we mind each other's business. So hence, if you sit next to me in school, if you're my deskie, you're my best friend. In fact, not just my deskie on this side, my deskie on every side,
other side,
every north, south, east, west. We're best friends, or rather, we're very good friends. That's how I looked at life. That's how I liked it. And then, so I went to Australia, and obviously not knowing much about the difference in culture, the difference in even nuances about socializing. All of a sudden, I'm realizing, I sat next to this babe in the lecture. Tomorrow, she's going to sit next to somebody else. Like, that's an abomination.
We should have been best friends.
Why didn't you sit right next to me? That's to me, I was like, that's the right thing to do.
One of the ones that really shifted with me is that I'm brought up in a family of about 6 kids, and so we're quite a lot of us.
Wow.
So sharing,
literally double.
Yes, and we have one word. Sharing is caring. You share everything. So you share food, you share everything. If you don't want to? You share. When you have parents
whether
like
you
mine, you share. Yes, sharing is caring. And if you don't share, someone will take, You try have brothers and they'll tell you share. So you can imagine, I arrive into the UK. I'm just doing my A-levels. I'm in a dorm with like a lot of girls and everything. So we used to have dorms with girls and boys separately. And I carry my food. Like if you're having snacks, I don't go with just snacks for me to eat. I carry snacks for people to go share.
Yeah.
So I bring them down. Everyone's so excited that they think that the the school provided the snacks.
Yeah.
So they eat my snacks very nicely, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So the next day, I'm expecting the next person will show up with
With
snacks
snack.
and share.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, the
Oi, oi,
shock
oi.
on me.
Oi, 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 oi.
When people would come with their own food and just eat their own food. If you and you think you're friends, just because you're friends doesn't mean that someone has to share what they have. So some of those things I would pick up on them and like, oof.
Like it's literally those small things that for me, my mental health, I couldn't cope the first few years in Australia. I just couldn't cope. Because now, now I was 18, 19 is when I went to Australia. And I had 1 month gap between finishing high school and landing in uni.
Oh, okay.
I had a 1 month gap. Obviously,
That's a little
there's no
intense.
life I'm living in that 1
Yes.
month other than saying goodbye. I was on a goodbye tour
With your family.
with my family, extended
Aunties.
family, friends, high school friends, all of that stuff. So, yeah, I go to Australia. I experienced this culture shock. I'm like, why is nobody calling me, asking me if I've woken up, asking me if I'm also going to the lecture? Like, I was just like, I don't understand this. I don't understand why
Why they don't care? It
my
feels like they
best
don't
friend
care.
yesterday is a stranger today. I just couldn't understand it. And then just the fact that there was such few black people, you would see a black person somewhere on the street and just start waving like a maniac because you're just like, somebody else that looks like me. Oh my God. Like now I'm coming to realize I'm black for the first time in my life. That's becoming a reality.
That is so true because I never really noticed I was black, actually. I never noticed my skin color ever when I was living in Kenya. And even when I went to Australia, not Australia, but the UK, the first time, I didn't notice it because a lot of the time I was just me. It never really occurred to me. I was never conscious about my color.
Yeah.
But something random used to happen. I'd be with my friends and we'd be somewhere in town and we're walking.
Yeah.
And the minute we bypass someone that looks similar to me, they look at me to see if I know
Yeah.
the
Or if you
person.
know the person.
And I would wonder, why are they looking at me? So eventually it becomes very conscious that you can't
You're now
really-
conscious of your color.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're suddenly conscious of your color.
Yeah.
Not because it's discrimination or anything. No, it's that they're conscious, so you're conscious. And it wasn't something that was ever something evident within your mind
Yeah,
previously. So
yeah.
that was something that stood out to me.
Yeah,
very, very,
and
very
you
well.
can imagine UK is way more multicultural. Australia back in 2007 in Adelaide, and I know you know what I'm talking about because we both work in international education. Now you
We've
have a
seen.
kind of an idea of what Australia is like now. But in 2007 in Adelaide, which is in South Australia, not very many black. I think every black person knew each other. Like
Adelaide
every
is
black
also
person knew each other.
Small though,
And
like
yeah,
as a town within
so
Australia
because
itself.
we're both now in international education, something I tell my students all the time is I'm just like, listen, life in Australia, you might think it's this way because you've watched movies, you've read books and things, and you have an expectation of what life abroad is. And I'm just like here to tell you, this is the reality of what you might go through.
Experience.
This is the reality. You might experience someone wondering when you learned English. Whereas in your mind, you're thinking, I've been speaking English since I was born. We're both, we share a colonizer. So it's like, it's just little nuances like that I'm just like, every time I'm talking to someone young, someone looking to start their education, I see myself in them and I'm just like, what would I have wanted to know at that age?
At that point. And I
What
think
would yeah.
that's what's driving me as well. Like in terms of my career at the moment, I'm really passionate in terms of giving kids the best chance
And you're so good
the
at
best
it
experience.
as well.
Thank you, love. Thank you. You too. Best experience in terms of making sure that you understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
When I was leaving for the UK, I could not wait to leave. I kid you not. I was so ready.
Yeah.
It was like yesterday.
Yeah.
But my mom kept mentioning something that eventually stood out me. She kept mentioning things like homesickness, and I kept wondering, what is
What is this
homesickness?
yeah.
I will never miss home. I will be fine.
Which
What is
medication do
wrong
you
with
take for
you?
this homesickness?
Where do we go? And then I arrive and I realize simple things like, where do you get your hair made?
Who's gonna do your African kinky hair? Who?
Yo.
Who?
And how much are you going to pay?
Yeah.
And I feel like at that age and stage, you're looking to fit in so much and you're looking for people to accept you so much.
Oh my God.
That when it's different, it can really mess with your self-esteem at that point.
I'm so triggered because, do you know, oh, God forgive me for foolishness at that time, but I ended up spending $500 at a hairdresser when I was brand new in Adelaide.
$500. Wait. Yes, the right now is exchanging at 145 today.
No, I mean AUD.
Oh, AUD.
500
Today's
Australian
at about
dollars.
80. That's still a lot, eh? That's 45,000.
Yeah, I went to this hairdresser and they're like, yeah, we can make your hair straight forever. Foolish me with my kinky 4C hair. I was like, oh, I believe you. And
Hold
by
on.
that time,
Straight forever.
Forever.
So you really wanted
and
straight
I
hair.
wanted straight hair. Like if it could be blonde and if I could have blue eyes, that's probably what I would have done too. Like that's the conditioning I had. Straight hair,
la la.
you know, that like the hair that dances in the wind, and it danced in the wind for like 2 hours. But
I don't
before my ancestors came
have
through
died.
the roots and they were like, sit down. But also not understanding money. And that's, I think, something we should cover. Not understanding money, because I've never worked for money. 500 in my head is sounding like 500 shillings. So I'm like, that kind of sounds okay. It's only until after I've paid, then I was like, oh my God. That was money that was meant to last me X amount of weeks. What have I done? And also not even thinking long enough or hard enough, or not even having the confidence to say, actually, no. How can my hair, which is 4C African hair, be straight forever?
And to be fair, Dee, you have like some of the most amazing hair that I've come across. So, but then it is a lot of hair, and it's a lot African. It is.
My
This would
ancestors
be
came
very
through
strange.
quick. I think they had a meeting
Uh-huh.
and they were just like, let's teach her a lesson quick. Quick. So the lesson came quick. So it's just like little things like that I consciously try. And there's a lot of things I think I've taken for granted out of just having the experience. Like sometimes I forget, you know, what that experience meant or this experience meant. But for the most part, I try to be so conscious of how I speak to people wanting to go abroad, conscious to present a true picture, a real picture, so that when you go there by yourself as a 19-year-old,
You're
not
not shocked
expecting
alone.
what you found in high school here. You're not under any impression that life will be the same. It will be completely different. Worth it, yes, in the end, because of the growth and all these things. It forces you to think for yourself. Like Australia propelled me to heights I don't even think I could have achieved had I not gone there. But there's a lot of things to consider along the way, and that's something I make sure I tell people who are looking to go abroad, not just to Australia, it's anywhere where you're looking to go and live in a different country.
And I think it's also important, Dee, to speak to the transition itself. It's not only for us, it's not only the transition of just moving from Kenya to a different country, but it's also the transition for someone moving from their county, possibly or brought up
Literally.
in Nakuru, moving into Nairobi.
Literally.
Transition feels the same. But I think at 18, 19, one of the things, I think two major things that I would have told myself if I could go back is that be open to different experiences. Be open to messing up. You don't have to be perfect to be able to do it.
Yeah.
The age and stage at that point is just be open.
Yeah,
and
literally, that's life's, what do you call it? Bunch of second chances.
Yes.
When you're that
and,
age.
and you have to remember this. And for me, the second one and most important, forgive yourself. And forgive yourself quickly.
Yeah.
Like for everything that
The
you do
mistakes,
wrong,
yeah.
forgive yourself. For everything, for not knowing what to do and perhaps ending up with a first degree and a second, forgive yourself. For showing up at a salon that will tell you that they'll straighten your hair, yet your hair is perfect the way you are. Your skin is perfect the way it is.
If you are
forgive
attacked
yourself.
by stupidity,
Forgive
yourself grace.
Yes, give yourself grace.
Yeah.
And the grace that we keep giving to everybody else, to remember to give yourself grace, to remember to allow yourself to learn. You have never done this before.
Yeah.
And because you've never done it before, it's okay to be a little dumb,
Yeah.
but then still adjust and grow from there.
And yeah, just to add to that, that's great. And to also have a variety of friends that you wouldn't usually mingle with. So if maybe you're a church goer, having friends who don't necessarily go to church, but can teach you something new about, I don't know, technology, or like mingling with. Australia taught me how to mingle with people of every age and every stage. I would go out with people who are my mother's age.
Wow.
You know, in their 50s, 60s, because that's all we've got. We've only got each other. So you're each other's family. And so you find whoever's free to go for a coffee,
to hang out,
could be someone who's twice my age. And you have to find something to talk about. You have to find something in common, a common thread between you two. I used to hang out with people younger than me. You know, people probably 5, 8, is there even 10? Probably 10 years younger than me. And you go to the same spots, because it's not like the age thing in Australia is not a big thing.
So
it's
evident,
not the age difference. You know that in Kenya, when you turn 30, suddenly you've expired or something.
Where?
In Australia, there's no pressure. Those age pressures don't exist. There's no timeline by which you must have done X. You know, it's a very, very I guess, free society in that sense. So you learn how to make friends with married couples when you're a very young girl. And so then you learn, this is how married couples interact. This is how things you would never think about. And those kinds of friendships, those kinds of relationships carry with them so many lessons if you open yourself to it. Another thing I always tell people at that age and at that stage, please open yourself up to experiences.
Yes, please.
Experience things in life, travel, make friends, like I said, that you wouldn't usually make, because that's how you grow, that's how you learn. And that's one thing I really love about travel, is because if I go to China right now, I'll see something the Chinese do that will open my mind to,
Do you know,
this is how
actually on that point, just on that point, the first time, my first roommate at A-levels was actually Chinese. And when I went for my second degree, when my dad was like, how do I pay for an engineer psychology? Are you serious right now? But then he said, pick a language. The first one that came to mind was Chinese, just in case you want to converse. Ni hao.
Oh, okay. All right.
I say ni hao ma. You say
multi-talented, multi-professional. Listen, you have 2 out of the menu of professions were offered by African parents.
Which ones?
There's pilot, lawyer, doctor, you're psychologist, architect.
Hey, psychologist engineer. Was not offered for me.
Psychologist wasn't on the list. But listen, look.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But it's these things.
Out of curiosity, would you ever practice any of those areas, engineering or psychology?
I think I practice psychology all the time. I'll tell you that because I like working with people.
Okay.
Remember when I was doing my first degree, my personality would show up and I wasn't quite sure what was going on there.
Trying like, to no, nuts find and bolts. No. I want
nosy and in everyone's business. Not that psychologists did that way, but they love to work with people and I love to work with people. And in essence, I think I pay homage to this continuously by being able to work with students, being able to work with parents. I work with people from all diverse cultures and I can understand what they're feeling and what they're things they did not say, but you read upon because you can read upon the energy. These are things I'm able to do now really, really well. So I think I work in this different areas because of the transferable skills that I keep mentioning. It's about what are you able to pick up from what you picked up and being able to apply that to now what I'm doing. To now your real life.
Okay, so as you can see, the purpose of this podcast is to just highlight how different life can be at different ages, different stages. You might think your life trajectory is this way, and then again you get a disruption and you're just like, oh my God, what happened? Don't be too stuck in the disruption, like things have gone left. Okay, let's see where left takes us. Let's see where a U-turn takes us. Like, it's just important to, I guess, have these conversations because there's what we learn in formal education, there's what we learn from the school of life, and my God, this school of life can really, really, really shake what you think you know, who you are, that kind of thing. So we're, again, your big sisters, trying to give you the tools, trying to have the conversations we wish,
someone
we
talked
heard about when we were younger.
Also, and just in case you hear and this is something that you've been through and everything, perhaps to offer you a platform to also heal from it and pick up the different things and realize this worked for me, this didn't work for me, and it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
And please forget about relationships at this age, at 18, 19, at your teens, at your please, like, honestly speaking, forget about.
Let me tell you, at 16 when I was leaving for the UK, that's the first time I got into a long distance relationship.
Oh, long distance at 16?
Let's talk about it when we talk about
your portion.
Yeah. Hey, the heartache. You carry your heart, you're like, it's broken.
I
don't know how to fix it.
Why were we so committed to...
No, let me tell you, I was in love. I was in love. And it's the age where there wasn't any iPhones to do FaceTime.
Yeah.
There wasn't any
This
Facebook
letter
yet
age.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yes. It was a point where you would be, and you hold on to that relationship.
Yeah.
And worse. The mother to this guy, and I won't say who he was, but decided to tell us that I only give you 3 months in this relationship. We lasted
That's
until I went.
accepted.
I was like, let's
We'll be married
go.
30 years.
Mm-hmm.
No.
I was in a relationship until I was doing my 2nd degree.
Oh, Lord
So here we
Jesus.
go.
Literally a teenager. You don't even know. Like, your brain hasn't formed yet, by the way, as a teenager. It hasn't fully formed. It fully forms at 25. So it's literally, you're making decisions with half a brain. Half a brain. So forget about relationships at this age. Can you imagine if you did a course about how to interact with people at that age, or how to further your people skills or something of the sort? Do you know what I mean? Like how to
energy used.
focus on your talent. Let your
Yes.
talent give you sleepless nights. Don't let somebody's son, somebody's daughter be the one giving you sleepless nights. Like, please, like, this is my public appeal.
Isabel.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is ages and stages today.
Yeah.
We were talking about this age, 18, 19.
18.
At that age, what stage were we at? What were we thinking? What were we feeling? And we've just tried to be able to give you a chance to be able to just hear from us. We'd love to hear from you as well. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were you going through? Are you
18?
experiencing?
What's going on with you now if you're 18, 19? Are you looking to study? Are you Gen Z, and therefore you're free to do artsy stuff? Like, we want to know what's going on with you, how this conversation resonates. Are you 40 and now looking back at 18 and thinking,
I should have picked up this, man.
Yeah.
Or I should have done this. I should have pursued this. We want to know. We want to hear from you. We also want to hear from you just in case you're thinking this tip could really help an 18-year-old right now. This really could work. I wish I could tell my daughter this. I wish I could tell my son this.
Yeah.
We want to know. We want to know. We want to hear from you. Talk to us. Chat us up. Leave comments on here. We will be sure to address them as we work through them. Are you in a relationship at 18? How's that going?
Exit.
How's that going? Dee is a mommy. She is tough. But how's that going? I want to know how's that going. How you being able to handle it, and how can we be able to help? It's been us. It's been me, Beldina Kasema, on all socials. Follow me. Follow our page, Ages and Stages Podcast KE.
Yeah.
On Instagram as well. We are
On
also
YouTube and on all podcast platforms.
And what are these platforms, Dee? I hear people. You know me when you say such things, you have to explain.
There are many. There's, Apple Podcasts, there's Google, there's Spotify, there's Castbox, there's more. That's why you say all.
Of them.
All the above.
If you listen to a podcast, we're definitely there. Thank you.
Yeah.
And have a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Whatever time you're watching us at.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.